This is Sybert signing into Red Alert 3 on the map Cabana Republic and spawning as the orange allies on the left side from Team H2O. It is LiCtor. That is right. He is going to be returning his opponent also from Team H2O, but spawning as the Soviets on the right side. He is JeJe. And I really still have no idea how to pronounce it, but he is going Crane first, interestingly enough. Not a build that you see very often, not an opener that you see on basically any map, but oh my, that's actually going to be airfield before anything, barracks or refinery. I wanted to talk about how I was on holiday for the past week or so, but this game is kicking into high gear. I do want to mention the music that you're hearing right now, those wonderful sounds, are from the Renegade-x soundtrack. If you missed it, the Renegade-x standalone multiplayer does now have a release date, and I am really excited because that is a mod, well, it was a mod that I was following for quite a long time, and now it is, of course, going to be coming out pretty soon here, so if you want to go check that out, I would highly recommend it. The soundtrack is fantastic, and the gameplay is looking pretty epic. We do have a relatively fast super reactor, although I guess it's not all that fast, just in the fact that it's after both refineries, and the MCV is already going to be moving out to the expansion. And also, speaking of mods or games that used to be mods, the ModDB Mod of the Year awards are going to be kicking off, so if you have some mods that you've been wanting to vote for, go ahead and do that. Be sure to head over to moddb.com. And of course, I believe the NDDB awards would be going on as well then. And we do have, despite the very curious openers, not a whole lot of action. There hasn't been a huge push for like really hard-hitting, interesting choice here for hard-hitting units out of either one of these players, despite the Crane first, despite the airfield first, which are not things that we normally see, although Cabana Republic is known for some unusual builds. We do have, is he actually going to be going for immediate 4 refineries? Soviet players do love to get themselves up to those 4 bases or even 5 refineries if they at all can. But not often do you see Soviets going for it this quickly. We'll have to see LiCtor. Can he really stop the machine that is JeJe? As you can see, the War Factory is just now here. So really, the build that JeJe went, this really fast sort of Crane into double refinery, super reactor, third refinery, War Factory, this extremely delayed sort of units build. There's not a whole lot on the map for either one of these players. It only really works because the only other player opened up so passively as well. As you can see, the barracks is even going to be getting thrown down. And just right there, the flak cannon does get a single shot off, but LiCtor, the mastery with control, is going to be pulling his Vindicators back right just at the right moment. The MCV has not moved, although we do have Tier 2. It has been purchased, which means we may be seeing the MCV redeploy a little bit closer to that airfield to go ahead and get some cryocopters out. I mean, I guess he could just go ahead and go for a third base without cryocopters, but I would not be surprised because cryocopters are really good. A good move here by LiCtor. I really like the just two Riptides that they pulled up to the north there. He's going to be cutting off that MCV, stopping any sort of base that would be built. As you can see, only one oil derrick has been captured 3 minutes into this game. Extremely unorthodox by both of these players, and I mean, JeJe going to be grabbing the first one. So yeah, if LiCtor had played a little bit infantry heavy, a little bit more aggressive, he could have won the game within the first 3 minutes. And likewise, if we would have seen some sort of crazy conscript, or maybe even terror drone or sickle push, we could have potentially seen JeJe actually end the game himself. Instead, we've got assault destroyers out on the map. We've got Riptides going to be heading out across the map, and JeJe is looking to secure himself a 4th refinery. He's been sitting pretty on these 3 refineries for quite a while now, and he hasn't had a ton of expenditures. As you can see, he's got the twin blades. He's got pretty much all of his tech up and ready to go. A couple of, oh no, an Apollo going to be coming in here, does get picked off, which is going to be actually pretty important considering the twin blade focus that JeJe is going to be going for. And he's not actually going to be producing any more twin blades. I feel like twin blades are going to be a really strong unit choice. The refineries could be hit here. As you can see, JeJe going to be selling off some walls, going to be pulling back some of those harvesters to go ahead and get them out of harm's way. Could go ahead and switch them over to that adaptive armor. And look at that, going to be throwing down Tesla coil. A really nice response here. Black hole armor should be activated here for LiCtor to go ahead and absorb a couple of extra shots, but the twin blades may have strayed too far. There's only one Apollo. I don't think it actually has the DPS to really deal with those twin blades efficiently, especially not with the Bullfrog so close at hand. An additional Apollo will be getting spotted as it cruises around the map. And however, we do not have a 4th, neither a 5th refinery. out of JeJe. He's instead going to be moving his MCV once again. LiCtor going to be trying to set up a third base. He might be able to squeeze one out, but he's been under a lot of pressure to build units. He's built quite a few units. I mean, the defensive play... Oh, actually, JeJe very lucky that LiCtor pulled back, because if he would have ran into that low power mode while LiCtor was still around, it could have been very detrimental. Taking out that reactor was actually a pretty good idea. Actually going to be going for his opponent's oil derrick, although I don't know if he'll actually be able to capture it. We do have the 4 Riptides going to be moving out. LiCtor desperately needs to put the hurt on, and I feel like cryocopters would be a really good way to do that. We presently don't have any MiGs, which means that if we do some sort of split up with the cryocopters potentially hitting two locations at once, that's going to be at the very least forcing the bullfrogs to be split up. And again, it's about that unit mixing. You don't want to use just a couple of units, or else you get caught in a situation like this where you've got a couple of Apollos chasing down your twin blades and your bullfrogs were completely out of position to deal with the problem. Riptides in the north going to be countered with these Vindicators, going to be hunting down that MCV, and they might be able to get some shots off, but this likely isn't going to be able to take down the MCV. I think that JeJe just needs to focus a little bit more on keeping his army together, because he needs to just play defensively. He doesn't have the army to just straight up engage LiCtor, but he's going to be controlling the middle of the map, using those buildings to great effect, and also going to be capturing a lot of the oil derricks, both of them in fact, and the Riptides are going to be eliminating that. But can he actually chase away these Apollos? This is what he needs. Twin Blade Bullfrog is a solid combination, and a couple more of these Riptides are going to be getting picked off if JeJe actually focus fires properly, which indeed he does. The Twin Blades need to be a little bit careful because of the Apollos. However, those Bullfrogs, if they're out in front, then they can deal with those Apollos quite nicely. We do have the mix-in of a Terror Drone or 2. I really do like that. That's going to be helping him to deal with the Assault Destroyers, forcing LiCtor back forcing LiCtor onto his back foot and not allowing him to be too aggressive. He's going to have to bring either, actually could throw an Engineer into one of those IFVs to go ahead and keep alive that the Assault Destroyer, which I know was an old build order where you would go for a couple of Engineer IFVs, throw in a Black Hole Armor sort of Riptide, and then it would be an extremely powerful combination. But an even more powerful combination is when the Mailman arrives in the middle of a cast. We do have a couple of multi-gunner turrets going to be getting a couple of shots off here. Multi-gunner IFVs rather, and it looks like that Terror Drone hasn't really been able to get a whole lot of damage out. He does get the Infect right there, and I did say Black Hole Armor Riptide. I meant Black Hole Armor, the ability being activated. That was quite bizarre, a little bit of a glitch out there, but the Black Hole Armor being activated on the Assault Destroyer, you keep an Engineer IFV with it, but I think they ended up fixing that. I think it was a kind of, it was a bit imbalanced just in how effective that build order was. I think they ended up patching that out. I may be wrong, but we do have a single conscript going to be running around the map. JeJe cannot just stick on this Twin Blade Bullfrog sort of combo. He needs some hammer tanks. He needs something on the ground that he can start putting the hurt on LiCtor, because LiCtor hasn't been able to build up as big of an army as he would have liked, but as you can see, LiCtor is going to be getting to that snowball sort of location. He's not up to the tier 2 just yet, as he moved his MCV out to the water, but he is still going to be in a very dangerous position. Supplementing those Assault Destroyers with multi-gunner IFVs is going to be a pretty solid move. It's not the highest DPS army, but it does have some nice tanking ability. The 4th Refinery going to be established on the right side there, and actually an Akula sub out on the map for JeJe. So he is going to be sitting pretty. He should go ahead and send it up north to go ahead and start harassing that northern expansion, but 6 hammer tanks, that is a nice transition that I would like to see from JeJe. Going to be adding on a 7th right there. Might want to go ahead and mix in some artillery as well so that he doesn't get locked by anything that ends up coming out of LiCtor. However, LiCtor is now going to be on those 5 refineries, which is an extremely comfortable place to be as an allied player. He could go ahead and get up at that tier 3, or at least get a command hub over here to get the tier 2, so we can get some Guardian tanks and that laser lock action out there. 3 Twin Blades and 5 Bullfrogs, not exactly the strongest combination. A couple of Apollos could go ahead and wreak havoc on that army, but are there any Apollos around the map? Of course, in the north, we do have the Hydrofoils. The second one may be added on, because, I mean, the Weapon Jammer is just so powerful, and when you've got someone like LiCtor, who's got the micro to actually make that Weapon Jammer super effective. Look at that, the IFV's preemptively positioned there to go ahead and absorb some of those shots and take down the Twin Blades. Wasn't even necessary. JeJe going to be smartly choosing not to engage engage there. That was definitely a good idea. However, it looks like he did get just enough vision, and it is going to be a Badger bomber going to be dropping down that Desolator airstrike as the missiles try to take it down, but that's not quite going to be working. An engineer is going to be heading out. JeJe is going to be knowing about this, and he really should suspect that there's something in the north. As you can see, the naval yard on the north side of the map. Did he actually sell the one? Yeah, he did sell the one on the south, and he does have that Akula sub going to be moving in, while at the same time, the Hammer Tank Army now in full force. It looks like we've got about 12 Hammer Tanks mixed in here. Is there going to be any more support? The Bullfrogs need to stay at least close, just to make sure that there's not too much damage output from the air army of LiCtor. LiCtor does have some infantry in the north. The Javelin Troopers would be really nice. However, that, I'm not sure that that's what we want to be seeing out of that Terror Drone, going for that Assault Destroyer, and the Leech Beam could allow these Hammer Tanks to go ahead and not take very much damage. He is going to be just straight up engaging, which will allow him to eliminate that army quite readily. JeJe going to be controlling potentially in the north here. A slight delay on the attack command for that Assault Destroyer, but it has been neutralized. And now JeJe has full reign of LiCtor's base, and this is the exact sort of strikeout that he needs. But at the same time, LiCtor is got a commanding position out on the water, already going to be rebuilding that airfield, and we know that he's for sure got the Tier 2 on the MCV, which means we could be seeing some Apollos, some Vindicators, and some Cryocopters mixed in to help him deal with the army of JeJe. However, on the water, it does look like the king is going to be JeJe. He is going to be going for a fast assault here on that one single Assault Destroyer. Wants to take it down so the Black Hole Armor doesn't absorb too many shots. However, that Hydrofoil was in the wrong place at the wrong time. One Akula sub does go down in the south. We do have that entire base pretty much getting cleaned up. JeJe needs to make sure that he takes care of that refinery. He doesn't want to leave LiCtor with any sort of build radius, with any sort of position to rebuild at that southern location. As you can see, one of those Assault Destroyers going to be getting extremely low on HP, but cycling through the Black Hole Armor. As you can see, it's just drawing in all of the damage from those Akula subs, and a fourth, two Assault Destroyers going down at once, but a fourth Assault Destroyer going to be showing up, going to be absorbing a lot of the shots here for that Riptide, keeping it alive, for that other Assault Destroyer, keeping it alive as well. And there go the Vindicator bombs, going to be able to take out that Akula sub quite readily. And now the Riptide and the second Assault Destroyer are going to be able to focus their efforts on the remaining Akula subs, going to be taking out that ore refinery, which is what you want. Needs to take out the Prospector as well. You don't want to let that develop into a command hub, because suddenly the MCV wouldn't have to be rebuilt. And actually, a couple of more Assault Destroyers could get rallied over to the right side of the map to go ahead and help with that defense. JeJe going to be taking out that Prospector, which is a good move there, which will pretty much deny any sort of build radius that could be potentially established. Now anything that gets rallied down will have to be from the north, and the MCV from JeJe, I'm not actually sure as to where it is right here in the north. He could go ahead and take an extra refinery down in the south to go ahead and get himself a fifth refinery up and running. We haven't seen a ton of harassment this game, kind of a contrast to the previous Dan Cole versus Eminence game, where it was just almost harassment focused the entire time. The Oil Eric does get eliminated, which again is going to be a nice little move there for JeJe. Not a big deal by any means, but taking out that extra income is certainly nice to deny your opponent that. And JeJe just going to be systematically destroying everything that LiCtor has on land is definitely a good move. That'll give him such a strong position economically. I mean, look at that. He can take these two additional expansions, and then he will be sitting even happier. We just have such a crazy mass of hammer tanks, and that not something you see very often. The Precision Bomber going to be coming in and taking out a hammer tank or two. However, the IFVs and the Javelin Troopers in combination are going to be doing a fair amount of damage here. I'm not sure that this is actually going to be an effective trade. The buildings are offering so much DPS to this army, it's kind of ridiculous, as we do have veteran, elite, and fully heroic Javelin Troopers spread throughout the army, and the focus firing just isn't happening because the DPS is the wrong sort to take out those infantry. The hammer tanks just do not do very well against the Javelin Troopers in these situations, and the lax control of JeJe means that a Bullfrog and an additional hammer tank will be getting eliminated, all for the price of one refinery. And I don't think that that was at all cost effective for JeJe. His ground army has been neutered in many ways. I mean, he just doesn't have the numbers that he once did out on the water. Again, the hydrofoils and the Black Hole Armor is going to be doing absolute wonders. However, it looks like LiCtor has been completely cleaned up on the land. Although, can he clean up this base out on the water? And finally, the Cryocopters getting in on the action, and of course, Akula subs can't really just escape from the Riptides and the Assault Destroyers, as out on the water, they are able to hit them even when they're underwater. As you can see, those shrink rays from the cryocopters being so effective. Another assault destroyer takes an additional kill there as Akula subs getting taken out left, right, and center. Only one does remain as it shrinks down into the water. There is going to be hiding away from the cryocopter, but it will get eliminated. I mean, what sort of situation... what do you even do in that situation where you've only got a couple of Akula subs? The only thing you can try to do is run them to sort of prolong that army and get it out of position. But now we're in a really weird situation where JeJe had an absolute command on the land and then pretty much gave that up. And not so much, yes, he did lose a huge amount of hammer tanks, but also he gave it up because once he'd kill everything on land with the hammer tanks, those are completely useless. Like, LiCtor is pretty much confined out to the water. I know this could be a pretty big move here. The MiGs only get a single cryocopter, which isn't that big of a deal. However, on a couple of Apollos should be mixed in here to help deal with those MiGs. I mean, there's 4 MiGs out. There's 2 Vindicators, which means at max, there's going to be 2 Apollos. However, you have to make sure that you force the engagement over the water where the hydrofoils can get in. And on the same side, JeJe has to make sure that he does not engage over the water with his MiGs. And of course, it's a bad situation to be in because the cryocopter can sit right on the edge where the hydrofoils can provide support, freeze things down, and then you're sort of out of luck. As you can see, the MiGs are going to be getting taken out. 2 of them do get eliminated. The other 2 get eliminated on the deck almost. And the assault destroyers rolling up. JeJe may have given himself up in this game. His dependence on land may actually be what allows LiCtor to do untold amounts of damage. As you can see, he's pretty much restricted to just this one corner of the map. He's trying to establish himself on the left side of the map. As you can see, he's got water expansions in the south that he's held for a little while now. And actually, no, LiCtor is going to be pulling back, so he is going to be letting this base survive. He did let this ore refinery survive, which the harvester is back online right there. So that will be good for JeJe. He definitely needs the income, although sitting on those 5 bases is going to be pretty good. However, these are getting pretty close to depletion. Not often do you actually see games where they get depleted. And again, LiCtor hitting this expansion. It's high, dry, and exposed. Needs to go ahead and take out that ore refinery there. Wasting all of those bombs on that just one single harvester I don't think was a good idea. I think he should have definitely gone for the freeze on that refinery. I mean, cryocopters are hardy units. They can take a little bit of punishment before going down, so even if MiGs somehow were rebuilt and rolled up on that location, they would be able to take a couple of shots from the potential MiGs before actually going down. Dolphins are going to be scouting out. Going for the terror drones is definitely the best idea. As you can see, 2 terror drones getting eliminated there, and suddenly JeJe is like, well, this kind of sucks. He's trying to chase the much faster Dolphins with his Akula subs, which, I mean, the Akula subs, I don't know if they quite one-shot Dolphins, but it's pretty close to just a single volley of their torpedoes to eliminate a single Dolphin. I think it's a single volley, but don't quote me on that. However, of course, the problem is that Dolphins, they can jump out of the water, they can just run away, and your slow Akula subs have a tough time dealing with it. And now it's just a rough situation for our friend JeJe, who didn't really keep his bullfrogs too much with his army. The adaptive armor going to be saving that ore collector, and an additional Akula sub will be there to protect it. However, this terror drone, will he get any kills? He no, he will not get any kills as the Dolphins try to chase away that terror drone, only to get trapped by the twin blades, which is, of course, a bit of a problem when you head out this far. And man, I don't actually remember what the name of that support power is, but that the precision bomber actually doing a ton of damage in this game. That a Dolphin going to be getting to that fully heroic status and not actually going to be getting eliminated here. Could take a couple of shots off at these Akula subs or not. Could just go ahead and run on by. A couple of more Dolphins are going to be getting mixed in here to go for that harvester and refinery. It looks like the heroic Dolphin will get eliminated by the fully heroic twin blade. And, oh, Chrono Rift. I think that's what that's called, I believe. And that is not something you see very often. It temporarily freezes units. However, we do have, once again, cryocopters, Vindicators, and Apollos going to be moving out. However, Bullfrogs will be able to chase them away. 6 of them are going to be moving in. However, only 2 are going to be there presently. And again, LiCtor might be able to just freeze down that refinery once the Bullfrogs move away from the immediate vicinity. We do have a really nice transition. However, I'm I'm afraid that this just single unit sort of composition that we see out of JeJe is not going to be enough. However, we do have now the aircraft carrier. That tier 3 sort of transition from LiCtor is going to be exactly what he needs, because those EMP missiles, as we've seen from C9 versus WAF the Wolf, those EMP missiles have such insane range. And I mean, we've seen them completely whiff, but we've also seen them have great effect on their opponents. Kind of curious that we haven't actually seen a cryo shot or a cryo blast, anything like that. Just LiCtor was like, hey, you know what? I'm not going for the freezing one-clicks. I'm going for a different path entirely. And the air army is going to be running out. They will get eyes on this fleet potentially. They should be able to see the actual units there. LiCtor will know that they're there. However, he does have bullfrogs mixed in, but he also needs the twin blades there to support. He's got a really healthy amount of bullfrogs, and if he can get the shots off, focusing first down on the cryocopters and then the Apollos and the Vindicators, he will be able to do a huge amount of damage, and it also is going to be coming down to the special abilities. Nice use of those torpedoes. 2 of them do get sucked into one of those, but some of those were complete misses, and on top of that, the aircraft carrier does still stand. The EMP missile may be firing off relatively soon here, as the Akula subs are going to be moving in. They're cutting through the ranks and just skipping over all of the assault destroyers, which I do believe is going to be the right choice there. However, with the hydrofoils, the cryocopters, and the insane number of those assault destroyers, I don't know if it's going to be enough. Again, we just got this single unit sort of composition, and again, the Chrono Rift going to be used to great effect, locking down 6-7 of those bullfrogs, and suddenly the water is just a mass of rings, and just so many units going to be getting eliminated here. A couple of more assault destroyers could be getting eliminated. They're dangerously low on health. One goes down, an additional couple of missiles, or torpedoes rather, could eliminate that one single assault destroyer, but it's being kept alive by the black hole armor, absolutely allowing LiCtor to engage far more cost effectively than he would be able to otherwise. And as you can see, JeJe was actually able to win out with just superior numbers, the unit mixing not even really mattering there. LiCtor just did not have the sort of units that he needed. There were too many bullfrogs there for him to really get comfortable with his units. And I mean, most of them did get eliminated, but the cryocopters weren't able to do the freezing and the shrinking that they would have liked. And as a result, we do have sort of this reset of forces. Both players have lost so many units. A couple of twin blades could be getting locked down here, although no, it looks like one Terror drone will be getting eliminated, and then the cryocopters should be freezing down this harvester, maybe even the refinery and these other units. As the bullfrogs are way across the map, they are actually not going to be in any position to help these guys out. Could go ahead and freeze down one of these important structures, although it looks like he is going to be going for an additional harass. There's actually no harvester there. He is going to be getting back to work, and the bullfrogs are a bit too close for comfort for that refinery. But again, LiCtor, if he takes a little bit more of a risk, he could be eliminating some of these key structures that JeJe does have. It looks like a refinery was potentially canceled right there, or destroyed, as the air force is going to be pulling back. JeJe going to be moving into the main base. There's not a whole lot of static D, and going for the seaport is definitely going to be a good idea. However, now a lot of these, the cryo shot is going to be firing off, forcing one of these Akula subs to either move out of the way or get eliminated. However, it does choose the elimination option, and now with the black hole armor, then the seaport did not go down, which was a crucial structure for LiCtor to go ahead and keep a hold of. He wants to make sure that his Riptides give chase at least a little bit there to go ahead and do the extra damage to the Akula subs, because if he can take them down, that will be his ticket. And it looks like still controlling the land, but JeJe isn't really able to capitalize on it. As you can see, there's 3 prominent refinery locations that JeJe could be taking on the land that he simply is not. He doesn't have quite enough resources, I'm guessing, to go ahead and take those over, to go ahead and build refineries at those locations. Although, let's go ahead and take a quick look. It looks like, he's got exactly 3 credits, and LiCtor, staying on top of his macro as well, is going to be keeping those funds quite low. Of course, he's only got those 2 refineries, having lost pretty much every other expansion that he owned. And the bullfrogs and the twin blades going to be scouting out around the map. A couple of these twin blades may actually be getting eliminated. No, they do get down to about half health. They're not going to be actually getting eliminated. In the north, The Air Force of LiCtor is going to be moving out once again, but there's not a whole lot here for them to hit. There's no easy targets for them to go for. They could swing around to the left side of the map. As you can see, that crane being so useful throughout the entire game. And again, another canceled refinery. I guess JeJe is just like, I don't have quite enough to quite build that refinery. Is going to be causing the cancel on it. Apollo is going to be moving out across the map. They're trying to stay in front of this Air Force, which is exactly what he wants. However, Twin Blades, Akulas, I think are going to have to be the only option for JeJe. There's no other way for him to really deal with LiCtor. And of course, keeping the Bullfrogs close at hand is absolutely imperative, because you cannot just let your units get caught out with their pants down. However, a couple of hydrofoils may be getting eliminated here. No, the Riptides are going to be here, as well as the assault destroyers in force, and we need another aircraft carrier from LiCtor. He may just have to YOLO all of his forces together, ring them up, and say, hey, we're going for a big strike. It looks like the Magnetic Singularity, another ability that you do not see very often, is going to be getting used there. However, it won't actually be trapping any of these units in place. I mean, it can be used to great effect, but it's often kind of one of those things where you can kill a lot of infantry and hold a lot of units in place, but you can't really move in with your own units because it'll kill them as well. Where are all the hydrofoils? They're completely out of position here, as the Twin Blades are going to be getting the shots off on that harvester, but not enough to actually eliminate it. Those Bullfrogs should not be out on the water. Not like that. They're like, hey, we'll go and, you know, do nothing, because hydrofoils are the things that are actually shooting down our air forces. However, the aircraft carrier is now out, and will we see some absolutely key EMPs as those Desolator strikes is going to be coming down once again, pretty much eliminating or resetting LiCtor down to just that single refinery economy, which is not a comfortable place to be. However, on the left side, the Cryoblast and whatever that precision bomber combo is called, which, I mean, that's a pretty good, it's a pretty good combo that I haven't seen used in quite some time. I mean, most players don't really go for the bomber. It's not as good. I believe it used to be a tier 1 support power, and it was the tier 1 that would also unlock the time bomb, and that was just sort of a bad situation for anyone who's playing against allies, because they could call in the time bomb and then set it off super early by using the precision bomber. Twin Blade's going to be getting themselves some repairs. That fully heroic Twin Blade still out on the map, and LiCtor getting shut down every time he tries to really move out in a big way. However, it looks like a couple of aircraft carriers getting shrunk down are going to be making their way to the left side of the map. And of course, LiCtor has spotted that there is a base over here, and he wants to go ahead and punish that if he at all can. The MCV going to be on the move. The additional refinery is going to be built. But in the top right corner, we have a gathering of the dirty Soviet forces. The Red Menace is going to be moving out. LiCtor, is he going to be moving back for some defensive units? He does have a number of assault destroyers here, but there's no EMPs. An additional aircraft carrier possibly will be built for that EMP ability, but on the south side, the hydrofoils are going to be getting the eyes on this base, and the aircraft carrier are likely going to be unloading their drones onto these refineries. The giant wall of the Allies, will have to see, can he tear down this wall which separates the Allies from the Soviets? It looks like the Soviets are constructing their own wall. No one would have ever seen that one coming. As of course, it is going to be a wall made of Akula subs, which is a little bit more actively aggressive than the passive-aggressive Berlin Wall. But the special ability has been activated. Those torpedoes are going to be impacting to minimal effect. I mean, it's not exactly great effect, but it is going to be better than no effect. As we can see in the south, the aircraft carriers rather are going to be doing a pretty good job cleaning up those southern refineries. And again, like the Berlin Wall, we thought there was going to be a lot of action, but it ended up being just not very much action. It was just sort of like, hey, I've got an army, and I see you've got an army. Well, that's cool. I guess we'll leave now. As a couple of Akula subs are going to be getting left behind. I guess they're just a little bit west of the new wall that has been established. However, it is going to be a couple of Apollos moving out on the map. I'm not sure if they're just going for a scout or if he's actually trying to make something happen, because, spoiler alert, that army is almost entirely, actually, it's entirely Akula subs. However, in the south, there is even more Akula subs, and still somehow JeJe has not really been able to capitalize on the fact that LiCtor pretty much has nothing on the ground, actually on land. LiCtor has been almost completely relegated to the water for the majority of this game. As you can see, another refinery does go down. However, here come the Akula subs. 3 of them going to be moving out. Bullfrogs are actually going to be there for support eventually, but the Bullfrogs are going to be a little bit late to the party. However, the Cryocopters are arriving right when the party gets started, and look at that. That hydrofoil, so brave. Much blocking of those torpedoes did happen, and actually that shrink ray going to be allowing the aircraft carriers to escape. And again, the walls in the north, you would think that this is Eminence's wall swag, but it's not. It's like a Akula sub swag or something. Oh, the Twin Blades are going to be getting saved here by the Bullfrogs, and Cryocopters do escape. The Bullfrogs don't have the speed to take out anything other than just that single Vindicator, although I may have spoken too soon, as one Cryocopter does go down. An additional Cryocopter may be getting eliminated, although those Apollos are not going to be able to do too much more damage. However, we do have in the south an Akula sub going to be moving out, and dual Naval Yard Akula sub production. These two players are like, hey, what if we only build Assault Destroyers and Akula subs? I'm telling you, EMP abilities are pretty darn good, and if those Akula subs get caught out with an EMP, it could be game-ending. However, the Akula subs just cut right through the middle of all the units. They end up in the middle of all of LiCtor's stuff, and LiCtor can't exactly just EMP his own stuff. That's not too effective. Once again, the Great Wall of Akula subs, and we could actually be seeing a bit of a flanking movement here, as we do have a couple of Akula subs on the backside, which could be going for some of this important infrastructure, going for those refineries. And actually, we do have a depleted ore node and an almost depleted ore node. That is not a good situation to be in, although I imagine that these are also depleted. Yes, they are, so the income for these players actually is entirely terrible. However, one power plant is going to be getting eliminated here. Is there going to be... Oh, the chrono shift does indeed happen, and those drones... This is the great programming that went into that aircraft carrier. However, on the right side, we do have the Akula subs going to be getting chased away. The Assault Destroyers are going to be moving in, and the Black Hole Army is going to be, once again, making sure that the Akula subs aren't able to do a whole lot of damage. And LiCtor really could actually just push out with the majority of his forces. However, the Akula subs are going to be moving out. The refinery and power plant has been eliminated, and again, those aircraft carriers just cannot do a whole lot with just their drones. However, another power plant does get eliminated there. The Cryocopters are not going to be able to do a whole lot about it, and the Akula subs on the other side are going to be escaping, which is effectively just pretty much saying, hey, you 3 on the left side, you guys are going to totally die, because we are not going to save you. There could have been some sort of flank assault. There could have been some sort of two-pronged attack. Multi-pronged attacks is really what this game needs. And look at that. JeJe is like, hey, you know what? There's like 25,000 credits here. I'll go ahead and start harvesting some of that. Oh, this is water expansions. No, one of them still does have about 10 grand. The other one, just 1,000 resources left inside of it. And I mean, one of these players is going to have to engage at some point. And that, the magnetic singularity and that Desolator Strike, which can be a powerful combo, not actually all that powerful in this situation. However, the satellites are going to be raining down, and the refineries for LiCtor are going to be taking some more damage, but really JeJe may just need to engage. He's got so many Akula subs, they do pretty good damage. Splitting them into a couple of control groups and focusing down the Assault Destroyers may be what he has to do. But of course, he doesn't want to just throw away units for no reason. And man, this game, I did not expect to see such a focus on naval play throughout the entirety of it. And the Riptides and Assault Destroyers are actually going to be claiming a single Akula sub and then claiming a bear, which is like, hey, we killed an Akula sub and now we're going to be eating a cake. Because that is how difficult those two things are in comparison to each other. That ore refinery quickly getting shut down. However, there's only one hydrofoil here. It is enough in combination with the Cryocopters to lock down this attack entirely, as the last couple of missiles may impact. No, it doesn't actually happen. The second hydrofoil is actually going to be saving that refinery. If only JeJe had brought along an additional Akula sub instead of... Oh, the Twin Blades are actually going to be focusing the hydrofoil instead of going for that refinery. I feel like that may have actually been a bit of a mistake there, as two of the... Oh, only the heroic Twin Blade does survive until it gets eliminated, and the refinery does still stand. The economy for LiCtor is, well, I mean, it's pretty much dead because it's depleted, but it does still stand, so it's technically alive, although it's about to die, and it's just sort of straggling on, just hardly alive, but indefinitely it is alive. Can this assault destroyer actually get back? I'm curious, does activating black hole armor actually reduce the damage done by terror drones? Because if so, that's going to be a pretty good way to elongate the... Oh, quite curious indeed. The airfield has been sold off. LiCtor is absolutely up against the ropes. And JeJe now sitting on 6 refinery economy. The entire south side of the map, in terms of ore refineries, has been claimed by JeJe. On the east side, we have 12, 13, 14, 15 Akula subs. Still double pumping Akula subs. Split, 7 of them onto one side and 8 onto another side. It would be a pretty good idea. The reactor is going to be going down, trying to maintain control of this area so we can rebuild that refinery. Because, of course, the reactor will provide enough build radius, I think, to rebuild that refinery. But again, that cryoblast bomber combo is going to be really solid enough to take out a refinery. And on the left side, we do have LiCtor trying to once again move out. Every time he tries to move out, JeJe is like, hey, did you forget that I have exactly 70 billion Akula subs, and I'm just going to form the Great Wall of Akula and just fire missiles at you all day, which is entirely more exciting than the Great Wall of China. It didn't fire any torpedoes, and it's been around a lot longer than just as long as these Akula subs. So I think JeJe, maybe he should go into defense, but instead, he is going to be going into just building a lot of refineries, which again, pretty good idea. But ultimately, we are going to be seeing an engagement here potentially, as we have the biggest concave of naval units that I have ever seen. No! Just kidding, because they're going to be getting pulled back. The Akula sub's going to be moving for the potential re-engagement. Just suicide, just a move into this base. It would actually be a pretty good idea. It would be a better idea, actually, than just letting a single Akula sub try to take on the entire army by itself. As you can see, buildings just get absolutely decimated so quickly. The hydrofoil showing up, and once again, LiCtor just does not want to let this base go. He's like, hey, you know what? You may have kicked me out of it, but that doesn't mean you get to have it. If I don't get to have it, nobody gets to have it. I'm going to go ahead and wait a second. Where is his MCV? It's actually going to be moving out to the left side of this map. This game will go on longer, and the hammer tanks now know exactly, or the Akula subs now know exactly what it feels like to be a hammer tank, because he's like, hey, I got 1 million units to kill you. Oh, you went onto the land. I guess I can't do anything about it now. But it looks like LiCtor may actually be able to get some use out of these 2 ore nodes. I mean, there's almost 20,000 credits there waiting to be harvested. Less than 5,000 on that ore collector there. I forget what the reduced rate, I believe it's 75 credits per load is the reduced rate, as we suddenly have just units all over the map just streaming across. Assault destroyers, never have they been seen in such great numbers, unless it's a silly sort of game. And as you can see, LiCtor actually is going to be pressing forward, and is he going to be able to seal out this game? The assault destroyers cannot really match out on the water JeJe's sort of armada, but is it going to be enough? JeJe is still continuing to pump out a huge number of Akula subs. He's just double pumping those Akulas, despite the fact that LiCtor doesn't really have anything out on the water. Forcing a land engagement may be the best thing for LiCtor to do, because of course the assault destroyers do pretty well against stuff on the land, and yeah, the hydrofoils and the aircraft carriers won't be doing a whole lot, but aircraft carriers, I mean, even if they get caught out of position, just taking out those refineries pretty much paid for themselves, even if they don't do a whole lot other than that. That was a pretty good move right there, just taking down that economy, because again, that's a lot of money that JeJe was able to get from those refineries, but it's even more that he was denied. And the assault destroyer is going to be moving out just now. The static defense is going to be getting down. And how many cranes do we actually have? We have at least 2 on the field. However, the Cryogeddon rather, is going to be firing off. And look at that. Everything is going to be getting annihilated. But is the Riptide, is it going to be moving in here and there? Once again, that bomber doing so much damage. Never have I seen a game quite like this. That one single hammer tank getting eliminated there. And the war factory needs to be shut down before too much else actually happens out of it. And there is actually going to be the magnetic satellite, another thing that we don't see hardly ever. Are we actually going to be seeing magnetic singularity? Yes, it is going to be drawing in a couple of these units. Is the magnetic satellite actually going to be doing anything? There's going to be the Chrono Rift, Chrono Shift, whatever it's called, as we do have the Desolator airstrike going to be calling down and just doing some residual damage. There's so many things happening on the screen at the same time as 3 assault destroyers explode at the same time, almost a super reactor supernovas. And this game kicking into high gear. The aircraft carrier in the south going to be getting eliminated. LiCtor trying to reestablish himself. No, it's actually going to be JeJe trying to reestablish himself in the north, out on the water, going for that big Naval play that he already went for. However, on the land, he is going to be getting cleaned up, as the assault destroyers are actually going to be eliminating pretty much the rest of this base. And the crane does still stand. However, these javelin troopers need to go ahead and stay away from that conscript. However, the conscript is actually just going to be doing damage to the assault destroyer, which isn't going to be doing a whole lot of damage. And that crusher crane actually getting the refund on a couple of those units for JeJe. He definitely needs the cash, but this game will continue. Neither one of these players in a strong enough position to eliminate the other one. Just a single command hub in the sort of mid-map position there could go ahead and sell that off for the additional income. I mean, you might as well. You don't have a whole lot else going on. JeJe certainly has more stuff around the map, but it's pretty much just stuff that's out on the water. We've got a crane out on the water, could be taken down by those assault destroyers. We've got a refinery in the north here, which could be taken down by those assault destroyers. And then the rest of the stuff is just out on the water where the Akula subs reign supreme. LiCtor, can he actually do anything in this game? We'll have to see. The assault destroyers are going to be getting eyes on this crane. Will they actually be able to finish it off? I would imagine that they should be able to. Yeah, they can fire at it from land, which means that, well, going to be sacrificing one of those Akula subs, which means the Akula subs, even the ones that weren't sacrificed, can't really do a whole lot about it. And, yeah, these assault destroyers are going to be moving quite slowly. Go ahead and speed up a little bit there, as the hammer tanks are going to be taking a couple of shots here and doing some actually pretty nice damage to the assault destroyers. Could go ahead and turn focus fire on some of the weakened ones, do the extra damage there. And actually, that terror drone, is he actually going to be getting the infection? No! He could have potentially chain infected one or two of those assault destroyers, at least eliminated one of them. And now the assault destroyer is going to be moving out. However, it does look like javelin troopers saving the day. The hammer tanks not actually all that effective, and the magnetic singularity going to be drawing in a couple of assault destroyers, but again, with no DPS there to actually do any damage. That's just sort of a waste of a support power. Although it looks like the Badger bombers, the Desolator airstrike might be coming in once again. I'm assuming that's what it's going to be, although it might be magnetic satellite. Nope, it is going to be that Desolator airstrike as they call in there. And goodness, this game stretching on to just ridiculous proportions. On the left side of the map, we do have Twin Blades finally going to be dealing with these buildings, which have actually plagued JeJe for the majority of this game, although it looks like the javelin troopers that were inside of them did go ahead and hop skip out of there. LiCtor hasn't actually built anything. Does he have the money to? I'm not convinced that he does. It looks like we do have JeJe sitting on about 300 credits and 1,600 credits for LiCtor, so he actually has no way to build a refinery to get more money. I mean, you could, of course, try to sell your MCV, but that kind of loses you the game, which isn't a very good situation to be in. And, of course, without any way to redeem the credits spent on these assault destroyers, JeJe just sort of has to play the long con and just sort of wait out LiCtor and really just going for mass Twin Blade. Just a million Twin Blades to go ahead and make sure that LiCtor can't do anything about it, because LiCtor doesn't have anything to kill. Oh, actually, no, he does have those 4 javelin troopers, but actually 2 of them are fully heroic. 3 of them are fully heroic, and a 4th is elite, which means if they get the perfect shots off on the Twin Blades, they may actually be able to eliminate the Twin Blades. However, I think the Twin Blades should be able to get the shots off that they need. Again, with the black hole armor, it might actually be saving some of these units. However, 1 Twin Blade does get eliminated there, although I think one of the javelin troopers did get killed. It was the elite one. At least I think it was. Yeah, it should have been the elite one, which was not heroic. So close to making it heroic, did not actually. Now Laserlock going to be eliminating that ore refinery. Down it goes. So a quick recap. This is pretty much the entire world for LiCtor. JeJe, he's got a bit more going on, but again, he's not actually moving out to engage. And with that black hole armor, it's kind of making LiCtor in this situation where there's no easy move for JeJe to finish out the game. LiCtor has been defeated. That will be the end of the game. The GG going to JeJe, as he was able to finish off LiCtor there, albeit barely. Or at least I think LiCtor died there. I'm not actually sure because now it says both of them are defeated. I think what basically happened is that they decided to have a draw, and I'm not sure exactly who left first because I was on fast forward. But man, LiCtor plateaued somewhere around like the 28-minute mark, 30-minute mark, somewhere around there. He just plateaued almost entirely in income, and as you can see, JeJe is going to have a pretty big disparity here. As you can see, 117,000 credits of difference. What an absolutely insane game there as we do stretch on to the 43-minute mark for that replay. That was a long game. Did it need to be that long? No. But with the way these players played, it was smart play pretty much throughout the entire thing. Like, JeJe was like, hey, you know what? I need to get a ton of hammer tanks so I can finish off LiCtor. And LiCtor was like, all right, I'll just run out onto the water and focus my defense out there. And LiCtor played the defensive game out on the water extremely well, forcing JeJe again to transition to super hardcore Navy. So many Akula subs, and then he finally broke through, and LiCtor, again, getting chased onto the land. So the transitions for these players, they forced transitions, were kind of rough to deal with because of those units that can just quickly go from Navy to land, and they can just jump from water to land so easily, while other units, hammer tanks and Akula subs namely, cannot. And I mean, it's not like you're going to win the game with Stingrays. Don't be ridiculous. As that game, absolutely epic in many ways, did stretch on a little bit there as the players were desperately trying to find a way to defeat each other. And it wasn't like, oh, these players played so poorly, which is why it was so long. It was because they were playing so well, because they were so evenly matched, and because of the sort of running around nature. Neither one of them just gave up. They were both like, hey, you know what? I'm going to keep moving my MCV. I'm going to stay alive. I'm not going to let this one go easily. And as a result, we have a crazy long game, but that will do it. Actually, it wasn't all that long. I mean, in the big scheme of things, it wasn't like 7 hours of Red Alert 3 or anything like that. But that will do it for this match. Thank you very much for watching. Of course, there will be links in the description to check out ModDB if you're interested in voting for some excellent Command & Conquer mods that are out there, or even mods for other games if you really want to. There are some excellent mods out there. And also Renegade-X, which is looking totally awesome. Of course, the Renegade-X music was playing. That will do it for this game. Thank you very much for watching, and this is Sybert, signing out.